Hello, everybody, and welcome to the New Frontier, the show where we play Pioneer, brand new Magic the Gathering format. I'm your host. My name is JC Everhart, and today I'm joined by the host of Modern Meta Matchups, Austin Davis. How are you, Austin?
I'm doing all right today. How about you?
I'm doing really well. So, Pioneer, for those who don't know, is every standard legal set from Return to Ravnica to the present, except the 5 cards on the ban list are the 5 fetch lands from Khans of Tarkir.
At least for now. We've been told that they're going to be doing some aggressive banning, so we'll see what the format looks like here in the next couple months.
It's definitely going to shape up very differently depending on what cards people play and what cards tend to be too powerful in the format. But Austin, why don't you tell us what you're playing today?
So for today, I dug up an old deck known as the Atarka Red. It was first featured back when Dragons of Tarkir came out. It's basically just an aggro deck trying to deal damage to the face, things like that. So it was a popular deck when Frontier came out as well. So this deck harkens back to that a little bit, uses some cards that weren't legal in that format. So we've definitely made some modifications to help encompass all the cards that are legal.
Oh yeah. I am going to be playing Sultai Control today and using a bunch of cards that I think are individually very powerful and probably work pretty well together. So I'm going to be playing cards like Assassin's Trophy, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, along with some higher, more powerful top-end cards like Tassiger and Torrential Gearhulk and Dig Through Time to kind of finish the game out. So let's get into the gameplay. So welcome to the gameplay, everybody. Austin's going to be on the play with Atarka Red, and I'm going to be on Sultai Control on the draw.
Alright, I'll give this hand a try. Alright, so going into game 1, I have a pretty good hand. It's only 2 lands. I have the Stomping Ground as well as Ramanop Ruins. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, I can deal with this. I'm also looking at 2 Soulscar Mages, so those are my creatures. Kind of a creature, but not really. I have a Smuggler's Copter in my hand. So I know I'm going to be able to play a Soulscar Mage, be able to crew up the Thopter with that Soulscar Mage. I'm also looking at a Skewer the Critics, as well as a Become Immense. So I'm looking at this hand, I'm thinking, Copter is going to help me to fuel up the graveyard to get that Become Immense off early in the game. So I'm going to give it a shot, see what happens.
I can live with this hand. So this opening hand is not the best. It's a 5-lander. I've got 2 Drowned Catacombs, a Woodland Cemetery, a Watery Grave, and a Castle Vantress. But that castle is going to let me scry if we can get into the late game. I do have an Oko, which is a key card in this matchup because it's going to make food that let me gain life, and a Tassiger, which will block his creatures pretty well.
Alright, so I'm going to lead things off with a Stomping Ground untapped, go down to 18 life, and play a Soulscar Mage.
Alright.
Then I will pass the turn.
Okay. I'm going to draw a card. I'm going to play a Watery Grave tapped, and I'm going to pass the turn.
Alright. I will play Ramanop Ruins as land for turn.
Mm-hmm.
I will take 1, pay 1 life off of the Ramanop Ruins. Go down to 17, play a Smuggler's Copter.
Okay.
And then that triggers Prowess.
Yep.
I will go to combat.
Yep.
Attack for 2.
I will take 2.
Pass the turn.
Alright, I'll untap. Draw a card. I will play an Overgrown Tomb tapped, and I'll pass the turn back to you.
Alright, I will pay 1. Play another Soulscar Mage.
Mm-hmm.
I will then tap it to crew the Smuggler's Copter.
Okay.
Go to combat.
Yep.
Attack for 4. When this attacks, I'm going to go ahead and draw a card. And then I will discard a card.
Okay.
For 4 damage, I will pay 1 life. Cast Wizard's Lightning,
Okay.
targeting you.
I will take 3 off the Wizard's Lightning.
which triggers prowess on the Soulscar Mage.
So I'm going to take 5 here and go to 10.
And then second main phase, I will play a Stomping Ground untap.
Mm-hmm.
And skewer the critics you.
I will take 3 and go to 7.
After that, I'll pass the turn.
Okay. I will untap, draw a card. I will play a Woodland Cemetery, and it comes in untapped because I control either a swamp or a forest. And I will play Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Yep.
And Oko will go from 4 to 6 to create a food token. The reason I love Oko so much in this matchup is that he gains a lot of loyalty. He gains 2 to make a food token, which gains me 3 life. And that's going to be big game against aggressive decks. So having the combination of a very hard to kill walker and consistent life gain over the next few turns might be able to pull me back from this situation. After that, I will pass the turn.
Alright. I'll crew the Smuggler's Captain.
Mm-hmm.
And attack you. Trigger.
Yep.
Draw. Discard.
Yep.
And before damage, I'll exile 4 cards from my graveyard. Pay 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
To play Become Immense, targeting the Smuggler's Captor.
Well, I'm going to take, it looks like 11 here, so I am very, very dead.
Yes.
All right, let's go to game 2.
Alright.
All right, so for sideboarding, I'm going to bring in some cards that help me gain some life and take care of the threats that Austin is presenting. So Kalidas gains me a bunch of life and gets rid of his creatures more permanently. Also, I can get rid of the zombies that Kalidas makes to make him bigger and gain even more life. Collective Brutality, all 3 modes are very useful against what you're doing. Taking instants and sorceries out of your hand, killing small creatures, and then draining you for 2. And Scavenging Ooze will exile creatures to gain me a little bit of life and make a big threat of my own. I'm taking out my big top-end card in Emrakul the Promised End, and the Thought Seizes because losing 2 life is actually pretty relevant in this matchup.
Then for mine, I am taking out 2 Staring Bloods because I didn't really see any creatures from him. It looked like it was more the control aspect, so I'm not sure dealing 2 damage to a creature is going to be enough to kill it. And then I'm taking out 1 Skewer the Critics. It's one of the slower ones. It relies on me dealing damage to him. It's fine, but I wanted to bring in 2 Hooting Mandrills because they are large threats. They don't die to Fatal Push.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they can match up against the threats that he does have. And then Scab Clan Berserker, just because it looked like he was probably going to be playing a lot of non-creature spells. And if I can get in there, and whenever he casts a non-creature spell, he's going to have to take 2 damage. So.
Yep. All right, so we're here for game 2, and I'm going to be on the play this time. Unfortunately, I cannot keep this hand.
I will keep this hand.
Okay.
Alright, so for game 2, I'm looking at my hand. It's kind of risky, but I think I am going to keep it. I just have 1 land, and it's a mountain. But I do have some 1-drops. I have a Soulscar Mage, which is going to help me to get something out there early. I have Legion Loyalist to go along with that. I also have Wizard Lightning, which is only 1 mana if the Soulscar Mage is out there. I have an Atarka's Command, which I'm a little bit worried about casting, since I do only have 1 land and I'm going to need a green source to cast that. I'm also looking at Wild Slash, which is a 1 mana spell that I can cast. But to top it all off, I have Smuggler's Copter. So if I can get that second land and get the Copter going, I'll be able to kind of fix my draws a little bit. Draw and discard cards that I am not able to play maybe. So it's a little bit risky. I'm going to give it a shot, see what happens. Hopefully everything works out for me.
Right, so I'm going to draw 7, and I'm going to choose 1 to put on the bottom if I keep the hand. Yeah, this hand is pretty darn okay, and I'm going to put this card on the bottom. So my mole to 6 is actually pretty good for me. I see a Woodland Cemetery, a Drowned Catacomb, and an island. as well as 2 Okos and 2 Fatal Push. So I have early interaction, and I have, again, Oko is a key card in this matchup. So I'm going to put one of those Okos on the bottom because I don't need 2, and I'm going to keep this hand. All right, so I'm going to start with a Woodland Cemetery, and I'll pass the turn to you.
I will play a Soulscar Mage, and then I will pass the turn.
Okay. I'll draw for the turn. I will play a tapped Overgrown Tomb, and I will Fatal Push your Soulscar Mage.
Soulscar Mage dies.
Go ahead.
Ramanap Ruins. And I will play a Smuggler's Copter, taking 1 off of the ruins.
Okay.
Actually, I don't need to take 1. Taking none off of the ruins. It taps for colorless.
It taps for colorless.
I'll pass the turn.
All right. I'll draw. I'll play a Drowned Catacomb, and it'll come in untapped because of my Overgrown Tomb. And I will cast Oko, everybody's favorite standard planeswalker.
You've got an Oko.
Oko will tick up by 2, go to 6, and make me a food.
All right.
And I'll pass the turn.
I will play a Monastery Swiftspear. And Legion Loyalist, paying 1 life off of the ruins. I'll tap the Loyalist to crew the copter.
Okay.
Go to combat.
Yep.
And I'll attack 4 at Oko.
Oko will go to 2.
Smuggler's Copter triggers. I will draw and I will discard a Legion Loyalist.
Okay. And then damage happens.
Yep. Go ahead.
Alrighty. I will draw a card. Oko will go to 4 and make another food. I will play a Watery Grave tapped, and I will pass the turn.
Play a Monastery Swiftspear. I will crew the Smuggler's Copter.
Okay.
Go to combat.
Before combat, I'll pay a black, and I will Fatal Push the Smuggler's Copter.
Smuggler's Copter dies.
Okay.
I will attack Oko with both of the Swiftspears.
I have no blocks.
4 damage. I'll pay a 1 to Wild/U for 2.
I will take 2.
And that triggers prowess on the Swiftspears.
Yep.
So Oko takes 4.
Oko will take 4 and go away.
Alright. And then I will play a mountain.
Alright.
And pass the turn.
At the end of your turn, I will pay 2 and sacrifice a food to gain 3 life. Go to 21. And I'll untap. I'll draw a card. I'll play an island. And I will... I will pay 3 and exile these 3 cards from my graveyard to cast Tassiger the Golden Fang.
Oh.
And then I will pass the turn.
Alright. So, I'm kind of conflicted at this point. I have my 2 Swift Spears and a Loyalist, and he's got that Tassiger. It's pretty hard for me to get around the Tassiger. I'm gonna think about going to combat. I have Atarka's Command at this point and a Wizard's Lightning, but I only have 4 mana, so I can't cast both of those spells. So the issue is if I attack and he blocks my Loyalist, I'm not going to be able to save it. But if he blocks my Swift Spear, I'm going to be able to use Wizard's Lightning before damage and kill it. The Tassiger, that is. So it's kind of a difficult situation. I do need to force this damage through. I'm going to hope that he blocks one of my Swift Spears. So I'm going to go to combat.
Okay.
And I am going to attack with everything.
Okay, so Battalion triggers.
Battalion triggers. All of my creatures gain first strike and trample.
Okay. I will block a Monastery Swift Spear with Tassiger the Golden Fang.
Alright. Before damage, I'm going to pay 3 and cast Wizard's Lightning.
Okay.
Targeting Tassiger.
Okay.
That will trigger Prowess.
Yep.
And he takes 3.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to first strike damage, he'll take 2. Monastery Swift Spear will
That
live.
is correct, and Tassiger will die.
And then you'll take 3 damage.
I will take 3 and go to 18.
I will then pass the turn.
At the end of your turn, I will sacrifice this food and go back to 21.
It's like I did nothing.
Well, you cast a card from your hand,
I cast a card from my hand.
and you did kill Tassiger.
I killed Tassiger. That's important.
I'll untap. I'll draw a card. That was the card I was wishing for. I will cast Languish.
That makes me sad.
I understand that.
My creatures die.
I will then pass the turn.
Alright. Well, it's not the worst top deck. Scab Clan Berserker.
That is really unfortunate.
The sideboard card.
Yeah.
We're going to combat.
Oh, yeah, you are.
We're going to attack for 2.
Unfortunately, I have to take 2.
Which triggers Renown. Since it did not have a counter or wasn't renowned, it gets a counter and now it is renowned.
It is.
Which means if you cast a non-creature spell, you take 2.
That is really unfortunate.
Pass the turn.
I think I'm going to cast a non-creature spell this turn. Seems likely. Well, unfortunately, we are drawing more lands, but what I will do is I will pay 3 and cast Oath of Liliana. So when Oath of Liliana enters the battlefield, well, when I cast it, I have to take 2 damage from Scab Clan Berserker. But when Oath of Liliana enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature.
I sacrifice my only creature.
I will pass the turn.
I'll pass the turn.
Okay. I don't hate this card. I, in fact, love this card. This card is Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Yep.
After that, I will pass the turn.
Alright. I'll play a Stomping Ground tapped. So I do not think I can afford to let Jace stay around, so I'm going to have to cast Skewer the Critics, targeting the Jace to kill it.
Well, Jace takes 3 and dies. It's unfortunate.
And then I will pass the turn.
Okay.
Luckily for me, that Jace is not a Planeswalker spell to trigger Oath of Liliana.
That is true. So, I drew a good one. It's one of my sideboard cards. Scavenging Ooze.
You got a Scavenging Ooze.
So I'm going to pay a green, and I'll exile the Scab Clan Berserker from your graveyard. And I will gain 1 life, and put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze. And then I'll pass the turn to you.
I feel like I need to draw something to do with that this turn, because after that it'll be out of reach. That's not what I was looking for. I'll pass the turn.
Okay. I'll draw a card. It's an interesting one. So I will pay a green to exile a... Let's get a Legion Loyalist out of your graveyard.
Okay.
Go to 2 and gain a life.
Oh.
And then I'll pay 1 more green to do the same and get the other Legion Loyalist.
You got it.
So then I'm going to pay 4, and I'm going to exile 2 cards from my graveyard, Tasigur and Languish, and I will cast Tasigur the Golden Fang once again.
Yep.
And then I'll go to combat, and I
Yep.
will attack you for 5.
I take 5.
I'll pass the turn.
Alright, we need to draw something right now. That's not it. We're gonna concede after that draw.
Yep.
Because Scavenging Ooze is gonna be too big. I would have needed a Lightning Strike type of effect there with Wild Slash to get that off the board, and then Tasker was gonna be a problem, so we weren't very close to getting there.
All right, let's go to game 3.
Alright.
Well, it's time for game 3.
This time I get to go first again.
That's what makes me nervous.
Alright. See if we can do a little bit of what we did in game 1. I'll give it a shot.
I will also give it a shot.
Alright, so game 3 now. This time I have 3 lands, so I'm not as worried as I was in that last game. I have a mountain, but I also have 2 Ramanap Ruins, which, if the game goes long enough, I can use to deal maybe that last point of damage that I need to get through. I also have 2 Lightning Strike, which are going to go along well with my Monastery Swiftspear that I have in my hand. So I'll be able to play it, trigger prowess with Lightning Strikes. And the last card in my hand is a Skewer the Critics. So maybe I can play a Lightning Strike and then Skewer in the same turn. 6 damage for only 3 mana, which is pretty good in this format. So I'm hoping that this hand goes a little bit better than the game 2 hand went for me.
So this hand I'm feeling pretty good about. I have an early creature in Sylvan Advocate. I've got 4 lands that'll help me cast my early spells. I've got Liliana, the Last Hope, which will keep one of his creatures down and eventually, hopefully, net me some value by either getting my creatures back or making a lot of zombies. And I've got a Torrential Gearhulk for the late game to recast one of my instants and hit him for a lot of damage.
Alright, so I'm going to lead things off with a mountain and a Monastery Swiftspear.
Oh,
Here comes the 1.
I start the game at 19.
Go ahead.
All right. I'll draw a card. I will play a Watered Grave tapped, and I'll pass the turn to you.
Alright. I will play a Rootbound Crag. I will go to combat.
Yep.
Before damage. You know there's something before
Yeah.
damage. Lightning Strike.
Yep. I'm going to take 3 from the Lightning Strike and then 2 from the Monastery Swiftspear because of prowess.
Then I will pass the turn.
Okay. I'll draw a card. I will play a Woodland Cemetery, which comes in untapped, and I will cast a Sylvan Advocate.
Yep.
And then I will pass the turn to you.
Alright. I'll play a Ramanap Ruins as land for turn. I will pay 2 for a Lightning Strike on you.
Okay. I will take 3. Go to 11.
I will then cast Skewer the Critics on you.
Okay. I will take 3.
2 prowess triggers on the Swiftspear.
Yep.
Go to combat.
You may.
Attack for 3.
I feel like it's better to just get Sylvan Advocate under the bus here, unfortunately.
I will then pass the turn.
Okay. I'll draw a card. I will... Might just die here like in game 1, but I'll play a Castle Vantress, and it comes in untapped because I control an island. And once again, I will cast Oko.
Oko's back.
Oko will plus, create a food, and I will pass the turn.
Alright. I'll play a Stomping Grounds tapped as land for turn.
Okay.
I will attack you,
Okay.
and before damage, I will cast Wild Slash.
Okay. So I will take 2, and then I'll take another 2. I will go to 4.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will play this Woodland Cemetery untapped because of my water grave. I'll tick Oko up, make another food.
Yep.
I will sacrifice one of my foods to gain 3 life.
Yep. Go to 7.
And then I will pass the turn, and on your upkeep, I will attempt to sacrifice my other food.
Sure.
Okay.
Play Ramanap Ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Go to combat.
Yep.
Attack.
No blocks.
For 4 damage. Lightning strike you.
So I'll take 3, go to 7, and then I'll take 2, go to 5.
Pass the turn.
Okay. I'll draw. Interesting. Well, I will plus Oko and make a food.
Yep.
I will play a breeding pool tapped, and I'll go ahead and sacrifice this food to gain 3 life and go back to 8.
You got it.
And I'll pass the turn.
Alright. Go to combat.
Yep.
Take for 1.
No blocks.
No effects.
Go to 7.
Play Stomping Ground as land for turn.
All right.
Pass the turn.
I will draw a card. Okay. So I will play a Drowned Catacomb. I will plus 2 Oko and make a food. I'm going to pay 4 and cast Vraska Golgari Queen.
Yep.
And she's going to tick up, and I'm going to sacrifice my Woodland Cemetery to gain 1 life and draw a card. So I'll go to 8 and I'll draw. And then I will go ahead and sacrifice this food to go to 11.
Yep.
I'll pass the turn after that.
At the end of your turn, I'll sacrifice a Ramanap Ruins to deal 2 damage to each opponent.
I will go to 9.
Alright. I'll play a Soul Skirmage.
Mm-hmm.
Go to combat.
Mm-hmm.
Attack you for 1.
I'll go to 8.
Last turn.
I will draw a card. Okay. So I will pay 1 and a black, and I'll cast Collective Brutality, and I will escalate it by discarding an Overgrown Tomb. So the modes I'm going to choose are, I will give the Soul Scar Mage -2/-2, and I will cause you to lose 2 life, and I will gain 2 life.
Yep. Soul Skirmage dies.
And you're at 18, I'm at 10.
Yep.
So then I will pay 1 black for another Planeswalker, Liliana the Last Hope.
Yep.
And I will tick her up to 4 to give this -2/-1 until my next turn. I will tick up Oko to make a food. And I will tick up Vraska, and I will not sack a permanent this time. And then I have not played a land this turn. So I will play a tapped Overgrown Tomb. And I will pass the turn.
Alright. I'll pass turn.
Okay. Draw a card. I will play a swamp. I will tick up Liliana to give this -2/-1 until my next turn. I will pay a black and a green for a Scavenging Ooze.
Yep.
I will +2 Vraska, and I will sacrifice the swamp to gain 1 and draw a card. I will then pick up Oko to make a food. And I will pass the turn.
At the end of your turn, I'll sacrifice Remnant Ruins to deal 2 damage to each opponent.
Looks like I'll go to 9.
Play another land. 7 out of 19. Even though I should probably call it here, I'll see if I can survive a little bit longer. I'll play Skewer the Critics, targeting Vraska.
Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that, and Vraska will go to 7.
Yeah, I need to do that so that the Vraska cannot ultimate next turn, making me dead.
Yep.
I will then pass the turn.
At the end of your turn, I will pay a green to exile the Soulscar Mage from your graveyard.
Yep.
I'll gain a life and put a counter on Scavenging Ooze. And then I'll pay a green to exile the Sylvan Advocate from my own graveyard for another counter and another life. Then I'll untap and draw a card. Okay. I will pay 2 mana for a Heart of Kirin.
Yep.
I will +1 Oko and turn one of these foods into an elk, which is a 3/3 creature. And then I will go to combat, and I will attack you with my 4/4 Scavenging Ooze.
I take 4.
Okay. I will +1 Liliana, targeting your Monastery Swiftspear.
Mm-hmm.
And I will +2 Vraska, and I will sacrifice this food to gain 1 life and draw a card. And then I will pass the turn.
Alright. I'm gonna pass.
Okay. At the end of your turn, I will Assassin's Trophy, targeting your Monastery Swiftspear.
I get a land.
You do get a land. So I'll untap. And I'll draw a card. I will tick Oko down 1 to crew Heart of Kirin.
Yep.
And then I will pay a green to exile the Monastery Swiftspear and gain a life and put a counter on Scavenging Ooze. So then I will -9 Vraska, and I have an emblem that says whenever a creature I control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game.
Exciting.
I will go to combat
Yep.
and attack you with all of these creatures.
You've activated my trap card.
Ah, have I?
I'll pay 2 mana
Oh no.
to cast Atarka's command.
Okay.
My modes are going to be creatures I control get +1/+1 in reach.
Okay.
And I may put a land card from my hand onto the battlefield.
Oh, all right.
I will decline to put a land.
I see.
And the creatures I control do get +1/+1 in reach.
They do.
I will go to blocks.
Yeah.
No blocks.
Okay. Go to damage?
Yes.
Okay. You lose the game 3 times over.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.